man.
28 years for
On my
less than
first felony,
on your
first
first
beat.
felony. 28 years on your first felony for less than 2 ounces of crack?
Less than 2 ounces of crack, man.
Wow.
I'm talking.
Sterling, on your journey from free man to incarceration, it's been nothing short of. I'm gonna be honest with you. When I first heard your story, because I've known you for majority of my life now, when I first heard your story, it almost sounded like something from a movie or a book. I couldn't believe it.
Straight up.
And you have an ebook coming out soon that pretty much tells your story and everything that you've been through up until this point. But I do want to jump right into it. One of the things that we talked about, or we've talked about in the past, is the corruption from both federal and local law enforcement. Could you touch on that?
Law enforcement. Yeah. It was corruption committed against me, by the head FBI agent that's stationed in Cookeville, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. I was staying in Lebanon, Tennessee at the time. But, me being a part of the unknown vice lords, the FBI agent had a drug investigation going against us or whatever. Mm. But, they hadn't made any controlled purchases from me yet or anything like that. Uh-huh. But, yeah, so when the FBI agent messed around and found out that I actually had a recording of a Putnam County commissioner engaging in an illegal drug transaction, the FBI agent used the confidential informant, which was the leader over the whole town and the whole gang at the time. The FBI agent used him to trap me into the drug conspiracy so they can discredit me, and then had me illegally pulled over by local police officers so they can illegally take my cell phone with the recording of the commissioner doing the drug deal on that joint.
And that video, do you still have that video of the commissioner doing an illegal drug deal?
Yeah, I still have it, but it's not actually a video because it's back in 2011, April. So, at that time, smartphones wasn't just like regularly had, at that time it was more like Blackberries and, the little Verizon flip phones and stuff like that. So I had a Verizon flip phone that only record audio for like 59 seconds or whatever.
Okay, so the commissioner was engaged in an illegal drug deal. The federal agents involved, let me ask you, were some of them are actually incarcerated now, is that correct?
Right, exactly. Yeah, John Patrick Edwards of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, but he was a Wilson County Sheriff Office lieutenant. But the FBI stepped in and created a task force. Uh-huh. So he became a task force officer for the FBI, and he winded up committing corruption on another case while he was the co-case agent over my case. And people done made it home and everything behind it. But in regards to my case, when we went to trial, they tried not to use anything that John Edwards had to do with to try to prevent us from saying anything to the jury about John Edwards being a part of my case.
Because they knew that if they had, your case would also be dismissed as well. Is that right?
Yeah, okay. Most definitely. And the jury, 9 times out of 10, would have acquitted me of all the charges that was in the case because I had already showed them that the confidential informant was a high-ranking gang member that was a convicted murderer. Mm-hmm. And he was just trying to rat to prevent from, being incarcerated himself. Yeah.
Okay, so basically up until this point, it's federal agents involved that are corrupt. It's the commissioner involved. He's corrupt.
Yep.
My next question is the court process, because you mentioned that the jury would have thrown it out. You actually defended yourself in court. Is that correct?
Most definitely. Yeah, I represented myself. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I killed 55 years with the charges that I beat. I beat 3 924Cs, and at the time they were stacking 924Cs. So therefore, if you get found convicted of the first 924C, that's going to be anywhere from 5 to 10 years, depending on whether you're a felon or whether you brandishing a gun or, whatever the charge is with the 924C.
Right.
But every consecutive 924C after that is 25 years apiece. And I had 3 924Cs. So that's 5 plus 25 plus 25. That's 55 years. And I actually beat that representing myself. You feel what I'm saying? In a 10-day trial. The jury deliberated 3 days.
Yeah. So a 924C, that's what is that exactly? I'm not familiar with that. Could you explain it to the audience?
A 924C, that's possession of a firearm in furtherance of a drug trafficking crime or a crime of violence. Either one they charge you with. That's a 924C.
And they sentenced you to 3 of those, and you beat out 2 of those? Is that what you're saying? Just defending yourself?
Well, they charged me with 3, and I beat all 3. Like, I got acquitted of 2 and got a hung jury on 1, and the government did not want to see me again, represent myself against them and trial again. So they had found me guilty of the drug conspiracy, and that was enough for them to be able to hit me with 10 to life, anywhere from 10 to life, have me facing that much time. So they were like, we just going to dismiss the last 924C, so we don't got to go back to trial for that.
And deal with
what I'm saying? So they felt like they could hang me. Well, that made them eligible to put hang a life sentence over my head, the drug conspiracy. So they used the criminal case, because I had put a $7 million lawsuit in against the head agent and the local police officers that illegally pulled me over to illegally take my cell phone with the recording of the commissioner on it. So they used my criminal case to hang a life sentence over my head. Even though I was a first-time felon, and this is my first bid, my first federal sentence or whatever, but they hung a life sentence over my head to force me to drop this $7 million lawsuit against the head FBI agent and to waive all of my rights to appeal. So I won't be able to get back, because they know they did a lot of bogus stuff against me while I was representing myself. Because, I was actually doing a good job. I surprised the shit out of them. A young dude, 26 by the time I got sentenced, 24 when I got locked up, didn't have a GED, no formal education or anything like that. They thought that I was just going to crash, but I went in on them. So they had to do a bunch of underhanded tricks to make sure that I failed in getting acquitted of the drug conspiracy. So they knew I was going to be able to make it back. That's why they forced me to waive all my rights to appeal.
So that lawsuit that you had, what was that for? It was basically for them pulling you over illegally?
Yeah, illegal search and seizure, because I actually had a Tommy gun in the trunk and a 9mm in the front console. Me and my little partner, was in a Dodge Magnum, and then they had, them Dodge Magnum be having really dark tint when you put tint on it and stuff. So soon as we got off of the bypass and coming into Lebanon, I was supposed to come and pick up the confidential informant, not knowing that he was an informant.
Right.
And we were going to go target practice shooting, which the FBI agent have recorded us before going target practice shooting. But they used the fact that me having the Tommy gun and all that stuff in the car with me, they tried to act like that I was about to go commit a murder for hire. And so they were acting like that they had to stop me from committing a murder for hire. But in reality, they already had a police officer sitting off the highway right there waiting on me to come around so they can pull me over, act like they're searching for guns, but really they were searching for the cell phone with the recording of the commissioner on it, And the white officer that was already ready waiting on me to get off the bypass, he kept turning his audio down. But it was an assistant officer, a black guy, Tim Kelly, that seen his fellow officer had somebody pulled over. He was just coming to help. So he didn't know the roots that were going on, you know what I'm saying? So Officer Kelly wasn't turning his audio down yet at first. So he was able to capture what the white officer was trying not to capture. So that's the way that I was able to, they knew that I was going to win my lawsuit, because that's the way I was going to be able to prove that, man, y'all did not stop me to get no guns because I wasn't a felon. So it wasn't illegal for me to have those guns. I can go target practice shooting if I wanted to. Yeah. So, and they took 2 phones and 2 guns or whatever. And I had the 3rd phone in my cargo shorts pocket. They really missed it then because they had AR-15s behind the car, pointed at the car and stuff. Really, they wanted to shoot us up. Mm-hmm. And the detective that pulled up had told them to be ready for a gunfight. Oh. You feel me? So they were amped. So that's why they missed the cell phone that was in my cargo shorts pocket. Because I kept the battery out of it and I always kept it on me to preserve the recording and to make sure that no one would ever try to go to my house or something thinking that the recording was there. Because anybody I talked to that knew that I had the recording, especially the informant, but me not knowing he was the informant, I always told them that I kept the recording on me. I mean, the phone on me or whatever. Yeah. So that's how he knew that they were going to be able to pull me over and get the phone. You feel me?
Got you.
Yeah. So by the time they put me in back of the police car and they searched the Dodge Magnum and found the Tommy gun, the 9 and 2 phones, the initial phone that I was on when I got out the car, because I was on the phone with the driver of the car to let them know, man, I got an extra phone on me, man, because I just had a feeling, you feel me? Because I wasn't doing nothing. They pulled us over for no reason. He already had his lights on, waiting on us to get off the bypass. How did y'all know that to pull me over? And then before all that, my lawyer had already called the FBI and told them about me being in possession of a cell phone with a recording of a commissioner owner. And the FBI never checked back in with the lawyer because the lawyer felt like there was the agency that he needed to call saying about the corruption of the commissioner or whatever. And they never tapped back in. So then when the lawyer told me that he had called the FBI, I'm from the hood, so I was kind of uneasy about that. You feel what I'm saying?
Kind of like they're working together.
I mean, I ain't gonna say they was actually working together. I was uneasy because we don't really like police like that.
Right.
Where I'm from the hood. So I really don't want no police involvement or none of that stuff. But, I was dealing with corruption of a government official. You feel what I'm saying? Because, the commissioner had me illegally arrested and everything back in April 2011, and the pullover was in June 2011. So it was the corruption go a little deeper than what we just talking about right now. We just touching the surface.
And so what was the actual, I want to go back to the commissioner having, and he's not even a commissioner anymore, right? He ended up being, a lot of this was in an effort to build up their careers. Is that correct? And also, not only that, I want you to walk them through the actual, what you got on camera from the commissioner with the illegal drugs.
Yeah, the reporting. Okay. Well, I got this friend. I had this friend. Her name was Stephanie Bow, a.k.a. Dallas. She was out of Cookville, Tennessee. She was damn near 400 pounds. You know what I'm saying? A fat white lady. She only had 2 toes on each foot. The rest of them was surgically removed due to her diabetes complications. So long story short, she was the mutual friend between me and the commissioner. She had been selling dope for the commissioner since like 2009, 2010, crack or whatever. They had their own little secret crack operation going. So she would wanted her boyfriend had died, named John, and he was the enforcer. You know, the person to make sure that she don't get robbed. So the dope is straight, make sure the money is straight. You feel me? Mm-hmm. But he wound up dying in 2010. So she needed a new enforcer because the commissioner felt like that she couldn't protect his drugs. Mm-hmm. She couldn't protect his money. So he stopped supplying her the drugs. But he was still coming and buying her prescription 7.5 Percocet pills. And because I guess he was addicted to them or whatever, you know, but that helped her pay her bills. So I was over her crib one day when he came over, but she was already trying to get us to meet because she wanted me to become her new enforcer. But I'm like, hell nah, because Cookeville is predominantly, Putnam County got 2% blacks out of a population of I think 65,000 residents. Mm. And this is back in 2011.
Right.
And I already knew a lot about corruption that was going on in Cookeville. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to be in bed with no commissioner or none of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because them white folks, they'll hang you out to dry. So I told her, nah. But she still had him under the impression that I was like, yeah. And he came over, and when I seen it was him, because I'm the one that answered the door, because, you know, her toes and shit fucked up. So when I seen it was him, I'm like, damn, man, I seen the government tags. I ain't see him yet. He just bagged in a Jeep. I'm like, Dallas, man, you got somebody with government tags coming over here? She's like, oh, yeah, that's my friend, the commissioner who I was telling you about, Jerry Ford. I'm like, man, what I tell you, man, I ain't trying to be a part of no bullshit like that. She said that he just was coming over to buy some pills. So boom, I let him in. He come in, he sit down, pop it off like, Dallas told me a lot about you. You know, they call me Real. As you know, they call me Lil Real. Mm-hmm. So he was like, Dallas told me a lot about you, Real. I'm willing to trust you, but if you screw me, I got law enforcement in Lebanon, Tennessee, and that'll take care of you for me. So I'm hot that she even told the dude that I was dwelling in Lebanon, Tennessee. I go to the kitchen, light up a cigarette and shit to try to calm down. And it's a little small basement house. So from the kitchen, I can see in the living room, you know, it's literally right there. So he passed her 2 plastic bags, and then, you know what I'm saying, he passed her $200 or whatever. I seen the money he passed her. She started counting out the pills or whatever. So I'm like, you know what, I'm finna record this pill transaction so I can at least have proof of this day, and I have proof of me, her, and his acquaintance at the same time, and him doing something illegal in front of me with no curse. So boom, I walked in the living room and I pressed record on the little phone that only record 59 seconds. And I was talking with him back and forth, like, you know, about the pills and the pills that he finna buy. And, you know, Dallas, whether she's selling all of them to him or somebody else that's coming. So boom, that's how the recording was made.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then the way that I went to jail, the way he got me sent to jail is the next day, that was April the 5th. The next day, April the 6th, around 11:30 or whatever, I was so pissed off with Dallas, went to this white guy named James Lowhouse. So when I arrived at James Lowhouse, I wasn't even in the crib, in the trailer for like 10 minutes. The police showed up, and I knew that Dallas had called the commissioner and told him that I took his work. And she knew that I didn't know that many people down there. Mm-hmm. So they ain't, you know, they ain't have to look for me real hard or whatever. And when the police act like that they bumped into a car, acting like there was a neighbor, and they bumped into a car that was in the parking lot that fitted the description of my car. And when we opened the door, they ran up in that joint. It was me and 5 other people in there, 3 white girls and 2 white dudes. James is a white guy. That's who owns the trailer. and, Robert Moore. But long story short, they searched me 3 times before they even acknowledged the other people that was in the living room. You feel me? I had the commissioner dope in my box of briefs, you know what I'm saying? So they didn't find nothing on me. They went to the back and act like they found some dope or whatever. And police put me in the car or whatever, and they let everybody go except me, the owner of the house, and the girl that had a warrant. So I was in the backseat of the police car. He hadn't even called in, and he had me. He was driving on a dark-ass back road, and he stopped, and he was like, man, you give me a bigger drug supply, I'll let you go right now. So I'm like, y'all ain't found nothing on me, man. What the hell make you think that I know anything about a bigger drug supply?
And this is the arresting officer, or is it the commissioner that's telling you this? Okay. Gotcha.
Nah, this the arresting officer. And he hadn't even called in, and he had me. But he thought that he was trying to check and see if I was gonna blow the whistle on the commissioner right then. So if I would have blew the whistle on the commissioner, I would have came up missing right then with no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
So boom, I told him, man, I don't know nothing about no bigger drug supply, this and that and this. So that's when he finally called in, man. I got one en route to the precinct. So that's when we made it to the precinct. But that's how I knew the commissioner had symptoms. But yeah, so by that time it had them been past 12 a.m. So, it seemed like I was arrested on the 7th, but really it was the night of the 6th. But on the 10th, Dallas had called me and told me that I wasn't welcome to her crib no more, and that the commissioner sicked his dogs on me, that he was the one that sent the police to get me. So that's how I know the commissioner was involved with having me arrested and shit.
And these wasn't, okay, so I want to get to because that was something separate involving the commissioner, but that's not actually what you're incarcerated for now, is it?
Nope.
Okay, so... and a lot of people aren't familiar with this term. I actually did a deep dive myself last night, and I've studied on it. It's ghost dope.
Right.
So for the people listening, can you explain ghost dope to them and how that involves you in your case?
All right. And that's a very good question, man. I appreciate that question because the awareness of ghost dope needs to be spread. What ghost dope is drugs that don't really exist, but it's drugs that you're sentenced to in a federal case. And that's where you get your time. And the way that they come up with the amount of the drugs is from a confidential informant or a government witness testimony saying that you had those drugs. So let me give you for instance. At my trial, the confidential informant testified that I sold anywhere from 14 to 28 grams of crack 3 days a week for 7 years. So the government added 28 grams, I guess times 3, you know what I'm saying, 3 days a week. And they only used 4 years of that 7-year alleged conduct. You know what I'm saying? And they said that they came up with a conservative estimate of 8.4 kilos of crack cocaine. So I was only involved in 3 controlled drug purchases by the confidential informant. Since they couldn't buy dope from me because, they knew that I was a low-level petty drug dealer that sold rocks to crackheads every now and then to get by, and not even often. They knew they couldn't buy no dope from me, so they used the confidential informant, the FBI agent who I was suing, saying during the investigation he had the confidential informant to receive like $400 to $600 from him, the FBI, to bring to me to have me, the middleman, purchase a half an ounce or an ounce of crack from a dope boy. And so that's the way that they got me into this conspiracy.
So basically what they did was took the word of somebody else that said that you sold X amount of drugs over the course of this amount of years. And what they did was said, okay, this informant told us that he sold this amount of drugs in a week. So what we'll do is we know he's been doing this based off the informant for the past 4 years. So we'll multiply that amount a week times however many weeks is in 4 years, and they basically charge you with that much dope. So they never caught you with any kilos or anything like that, but they were able to charge you based off the words of someone else. Wow.
Based off the word, just straight word of mouth, man. And that is completely wrong because, like I told you, the confidential informant had me the middleman 3 drug purchases in this case, and that's what locked me in the conspiracy. So if you add up the amount of drugs that I was actually involved in for real, it come out to be 43.9 grams of crack. That's less than 2 ounces of crack.
And how many years did they end up giving you that for that?
28 years, man.
28 years for less than 2 on your first felony. 28 years on your first felony for less than 2 ounces of crack?
Less than 2 ounces of crack, man.
Wow.
They just threw away the key on me, man. You know what I'm saying? But see, this the thing though. This is why ghost dope is so wrong, because that's a machine, that's a mechanism that they using to be able to justify giving me that amount of time. But really, they giving me that amount of time because I would not snitch. I would not become a cooperating witness against my co-defendants and stuff. So it's 2 reasons: because I wouldn't snitch, and because I was trying to expose the corruption of the commissioner by filing the lawsuits against the FBI agent and all that. So, you know what I'm saying, the government like, man, this man is completely against us. How are we going to lock him up and throw away the key? We're going to use this ghost dope mechanism. They've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody did nothing about it. Congress, nobody. So they can do anybody like this, man.
The reason what makes your situation so even that much worse is because they kind of coerce the informant to get you involved in these drug deals anyway. So they can say, okay, he was involved in these. Let's get the informant to get him involved in these 3 consecutive drug deals. So we can say he sold X amount of drugs in 1 week, and we can pin this on him for another 4 years by this exact same informant who we got to get him involved in these drug deals anyway. Yeah, that's exactly. And they took 28 years of your life. They want to take 28 years of your life for this.
Yeah. I done served in October of 2023 this year. It'll be 12 years that I've served. And that's nuts. Just like you said. But see, that's what's so crazy. All of my controlled purchases of those 2 ounces, less than 2 ounces that I'm really responsible for, all of those controlled purchases came after the FBI agent found out through my lawyer that I possessed that recording of that 3rd District Putnam County Commissioner, the white government official. So when I made the recording in April, the FBI agent used the informant to start targeting me specifically in drug leader controlled purchase. What a drug leader means, the FBI agent specifically talking on the recorder of the confidential informant, his body cam and stuff, saying that, well, we sending CI Sims to make a 1/2 ounce purchase of crack cocaine from Sterling River, begin leader. Boom, then they let him go off to try to make the controlled purchase against me or whatever. They sent that man on May 16th. You know, so they found out April 5th, 2011 is when I made the recording. Around April 13th, 2011 is when the attorney notified the FBI about my possession of the recording. May 16th, now they targeted me specifically. Boom. They make that middleman purchase from me May 16th. May 18th, 2 days later, he had an informant to take me to go target practice shooting with the Tommy gun. So now they done recorded me with the Tommy gun to show that the Tommy gun exists.
Just paint a picture like you this dangerous guy type of thing.
Yeah, like I'm this dangerous guy. Yeah. But also, they was prepping to pull me over. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, I had the Tommy gun when they pulled me over, so they was already prepping for that. You feel me?
Uh-huh.
So then, boom, May 24th, they had the informant to do a second controlled purchase against me, saying using me as a middleman, basically. And then, but really, on that purchase, the informant gave me the dope that he came back and bought himself because he used the excuse that he was on probation. So he couldn't really touch the dope. So he was like, man, I'm finna go holler at this, go make this serve or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But I need you to hold the work and try to get it off or whatever. But when I get my customers, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to get the work. And so his customer really was the FBI. So what he did, he left it when he got fitted in audio video gear. And then he came back with the FBI recordings on and he bought the dope from me. And I proved that to the jury representing myself. So that's one of the dope charges that I got acquitted for too. But long story short, the last drug purchase was June 2nd, 2011, 3 days before the June 5th pullover. So when they had me the middleman, that last purchase right there, the FBI agent felt like they had enough drug buys now to legitimately lock me in this bogus drug conspiracy. So then, boom, after that, that's when they sent the informant to have me illegally pulled over, you know, set me up so the local police could pull me over and legally take my cell phone with the recording of the commissioner on it, which I got the dash cam footage of that stuff too. And that's going to be a part of the ebook that's going to come out that the real nigga Pooh Shiesty, man, is doing the introduction on. You know what I'm saying? So the world can actually see and hear my story.
Yeah. I'm gonna make sure. And you already have a book out right now. Is that right?
Yeah. I already have a book out on Amazon right now called Love, Corruption, and the Criminal Injustice System. Mm-hmm. And in that book, it actually details my life from when I was born all the way to the time of me being incarcerated on this case. You know what I'm saying? And me representing myself and all that stuff.
Yeah, and if you're listening right now, you can get that book. It'll be available. It's available on Amazon, but I also had a description in my the link in my description on YouTube and anywhere you're listening to this.
Most definitely, listen, I appreciate that too.
Yeah, definitely. And this won't be the end. We'll be sure to talk more about this. I just want to make sure I put the high points out there because there's so much more to this story that we didn't get a chance to speak to now. But it's a lot of people involved in this, corrupt people who've been proven to be corrupt because they're incarcerated right now. And it seems like you're the only person that took the bad deal out of all of this corruption. And I just want to say, on the ChoppedByT podcast, I'll be sure to do everything that I can to put the word out and bring awareness to this. Hopefully we can get something going from this. We'll definitely be in contact and I'll get everything together for you. Listen, this is the ChoppedByT podcast where we get real, raw, authentic conversations. Until next time.